Welcome to Self-Perfected.
I'm gonna be there at 5. I'll be like, okay, so I'll be here. And then at 6 o'clock, I'm like, bro, what's going on? He's like, yo, I'm almost there. 5 minutes, 5 minutes.
Imagine living your life like that.
What the
Yeah,
fuck?
no, it's crazy. I did not want to contact that guy for that one reason. So then I got this guy, because there's two ways of doing it, where they come and cut your hair in your house and then they clean up, right? But this guy that I got, he pulled up in that little fucking bus. You know, like those handicap buses? But he took out all the seats and it looks like a salon. You guys, you know those short buses, right?
Yeah.
But he took out everything and it looks really nice in there. So that way you don't have to worry about cleaning. You get it there, you get pay him, peace. But anyways, long story short, Mitch, always get your haircut like that. That's great.
I had this Ninja Turtles van when I was a kid, a toy. And like you pop the top open and then like there's like a side seat that pops out the side and like the Ninja Turtle sitting on the seat. And I was thinking it'd be really cool if that van had that, where it's like a little thing that pops out and like the barber chair. And so you're like sitting, it's like extending out the side and you're like outside and he's like, you know, walking around, you're cutting your hair. That would be cool.
I probably wouldn't be practical, but
what would be the point of having the van?
But then you're outside getting your haircut.
Yeah.
You know how hot it is outside in Florida?
I hate that.
True, and it gets windy outside too. So, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
But then you can see all the lizards.
That's true.
Yeah. Well, you get to do that without that, right? Hey,
speaking of transition,
you had some things you wanted to chat about?
Yeah, speaking of changing your expression through hair cutting and body modification.
Cameron is now a woman.
This leads me right into the next topic. So I watched this conversation between this guy named, the trans man. So actually a woman, but is a man, if that makes sense, in the trans world, right? Named Buck Angel. And it's like this older, I mean, if you saw the dude, you would think it was a guy. Okay. When you hear him talk, you're like, okay, something's going on. It wasn't a Matt Walsh thing, no.
Oh, okay.
This was, and then there's this other one who's a guy who became a woman called Blair White. You probably have seen.
Oh
this
yeah.
One. That's one where if you didn't look too hard, you'd be like, that's a woman, right?
Yeah.
For sure. Like you look at her, you're like, oh, she's a pretty woman.
Right. Okay. So it's tricky, right?
I think I spanked one out to her.
Probably. I think I spanked one out to thinking about you doing that.
Yeah. I remember you told me about that. And
Wait. Yeah. We're allowed to spank now?
We have fan fiction. I have fan fiction, but it's
spanking
all
is now allowed.
My fan fiction is all stories of Asif pleasuring himself to pictures of trans women. I get real detailed in the stories. So anyways, I was watching this conversation between the two of them. Apparently it's like the first time they've ever done anything together. And they were just having this discussion about how they're totally against the promotion of trans to children, the promotion of puberty blockers to children, like all these points, and how they're just like, you know, like they're kind of like the big public faces of this whole thing, you know, in terms of trans people and all that stuff. So like they have a big following. I'm assuming this Blair White has like millions of followers. I can't remember. But anyway, so they're having this conversation and they were talking about the puberty blockers. Okay. And I hadn't really thought too much about this other than, you know, obviously it's crazy. You know, Owen Benjamin got banned from Twitter because he said that. So there was this NPR person, like an executive at NPR or something like that. And I forget what the conversation was about, but there was some kind of back and forth with him and Owen Benjamin or something, or maybe just Owen Benjamin called him out. I can't remember.
It was like, he was basically going to give puberty blockers to a 6-year-old.
But was that what it was specifically about? Or was it, it doesn't really matter. Point is, Owen Benjamin said, he pointed that out, right? And he was like, this guy's abusing his child, right?
Yeah.
He was like 6 or 7, the kid.
Yeah.
He was not like an older child. And not that it matters, but you know what I'm saying. So, well, when I say not that it matters, I mean, you shouldn't be doing it for 14-year-olds, but that's what I meant.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he called him out and he got banned for like anti-trans or transphobia or whatever, right? So, why did I bring that up? I don't know why I brought up Benjamin. Oh yeah, but because it's like something I'd heard of. It's happening. People are talking about it. People are promoting it, and I was just like, okay. In my mind, it's just these people who are a little bit insane, and they're getting brainwashed, or they're brainwashing themselves about trans people, and then they're like kind of forcing their kids into it and all that. And I'm sure that's happening, and it is happening. But there's another dimension to it, and I'll explain how I made the connection in a second. But so I'm listening to this conversation with Blair White and Buck Angel, right? And they're talking about puberty blockers and all this kind of stuff, right? And they mentioned that one of the main popular drugs is called Lupron. Have y'all heard of this? It's called Lupron. And it's like
recently heard of
it's
this.
an injection you get, I think, every 3 months, and it stops puberty like in its tracks. Okay. And
Damn.
they mentioned this point in it that it's used in the judicial system, whatever you want to call it, the criminal justice system. They use it to chemically castrate pedophiles. Like in places where that is a valid punishment, it's given to pedophiles to chemically castrate them so they don't have any sex drive.
Oh.
Okay. And I was like, okay, let me look this up. So I looked it up in the context of that. And they were using the word chemically castrate. And I'm thinking, what if you just said we're chemically castrating children? People would be like, oh, you're transphobic, da 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 da. And it's like, but over here, you're saying you're chemically castrating this person with it.
You know, I remember that there was a South Park episode where they chemically castrate, I think, Cartman. Like, I don't remember the full context of it, but I remember them doing a bit about that. And just showing how absurd it is to like chemically castrate a child. But in that episode, it was like they had made him more docile. They were doing it to make him more docile and like stop him from being, you know, so.
But the whole point of it is, and I think I sent you guys some screenshots on the Team Life thing, right? But it's like, when you look at it in that context, they're like, it makes you less aggressive. It like does all these things to the, like you're saying, right? But it's a totally different thing over here. It's like, you know, when they created Viagra, it was originally for like heart blood pressure or something like that.
Yeah.
Really?
Like, oh, we can use it over here. But then all these people who are taking it for this reason have all these other side effects and so forth because it was for something else, right? So yeah. But then they chemically castrate them, right?
But when it comes to ivermectin being repurposed,
it's only for horses. The horse tranquilizer.
See, but think about it. Like they're going to use the same kind of logic. They're going to say, "Oh, you're not a horse." But over here, it's like, so you're not a pedophile. Why are you chemically castrating your child? Are they a pedophile? Right. So I was looking at that point. Okay, and then I came across this Candace Owens video, which I sent to you guys. Right, and in it, she reads a Reddit post from a mother who has a 20-year-old. Did you guys listen to did you watch the video?
Christine actually came across this on Instagram like last week, and we'd read it together.
Christine, can you guys, excuse me, see God, please forgive me.
You are forgiven.
I should not take the real name of See God in vain. It's kind of like Muhammad. You're not allowed to draw a picture of him or whatever. Of course, I don't know how if anyone knows it's a picture of him if you've never seen a picture of him, but okay. But See God, we're not allowed to say her real name. That's like blasphemy and self-perfected. Can you give us a recap of it, See God?
Yeah, you're saying it was Candace Owens?
Yeah, I was just wondering if you could describe it.
I'll try to pull it up quickly.
But no, you know what he's talking about as far as like the transgendered boy. The mom was like saying, I've done everything right. We're going to try to get this bottom surgery, but the doctors keep saying, do you remember this?
Yeah. But
he meant give a recap of that.
Like just describe it. No, I just meant like describe it.
Okay. So these, like a mom was talking about, I'm pretty sure it was her transgender.
It was a boy that wanted to be a girl.
And they had gone through all the process of doing the hormone blockers. I'm pretty sure they'd even done some of these surgeries, but essentially what ended up happening is this person now, or the daughter, has no more sex drive, like can't have any sort of sexual pleasure at all. can't live a normal life, is completely depressed. And they're like, we've done all the right things. And it seems like, her life has just been robbed because we don't know what to do now at this point. And
big point, because the puberty blockers, they weren't able to get the bottom surgery because the child had a micro penis, which then cannot be converted into a vagina. And
that's kind of ironic. You can't have a vagina unless you have a big dick.
Isn't it?
That's awful.
And then
we're not trying to turn men into women.
Wait, the alternative though, that which apparently one of their friends did, was to use a portion of the colon to create this vagina.
The doctors use the person's part of the colon.
But the side effect of that is apparently it still smells of colon years later.
Like it still smells like a butthole.
It still smells like shit.
See, the gay people had it figured out. They're like, it's gonna smell like that anyways. Just use your butt.
You gotta have
keep
a lot
your
of
big
money to be
penis
trans.
and use your butt.
Like I didn't know how expensive it was to become trans.
And my God.
Oh, yes,
That's a great point.
Wow,
Then-
what
okay,
a
then
privileged 1%
Right.
first world problem to have.
Then I sent you guys a video from I think I sent you the video from Seattle Children's Hospital, and it's this whole video about
Puberty
blockers. And then when you watch it, they say, there can be some side effects, and then they name a few of them towards the end, and then they say we don't know what the long-term effects are because it hasn't really been studied enough, right? Yeah, we do. You've been giving it to fucking pedophiles for quite a while, I'm thinking, but.
Yeah, but we don't know the consequences on children.
Right. Yeah. So I mean, we don't know of any, right?
It could be better,
It's like, okay, they're doing it with this. There's the same thing with the other stuff. But it was from the Seattle Children's Hospital. And it was like, the way they presented it towards the end, it was like, okay, and then where do you go from there? You can stop them. And then that can lead to then going on to the surgeries. So you can then have hormone therapy or surgeries. There wasn't like any point of you might regret this. There's other options. You just stop doing the puberty blockers and then you don't do anything else.
Hang on, Cameron. It's just a pause button. Okay. You're just hitting pause on this puberty thing, and you can resume it at any time.
That's what they're saying. You're just pausing it and then just resume it later. And it's like,
it's just like I go on YouTube.
So you pause it until you're 30. And then when you're 30, then it's just going to pick back up with normal.
You just put it on your watch later playlist.
But they also said you can't do it for more than 4 years.
Right.
Watch that video. Maybe Christine, do you have, just in that chat. Hold on. Let me find, here's Christine. I'm going to send you.
So here's something that I found interesting.
Put it in the chat for you, Christine. Put it into the
Facebook.
Yeah.
Drake, turn up your mic a little bit.
This is me or Drake? Oh.
Drake.
And
then at some point,
that video is the children's hospital.
After the interesting points, got to loop it back around about why it's relevant.
Well,
go ahead.
Oh yeah.
Drake had a point he wanted to share.
Okay.
And then Mitch, you'll bring it around.
But I do have other point to make on this. Just
I just real quick. I Drake, when you're like our podcast, what should we name it? I thought it would be funny to name it Sea God and Drake the Devil. I thought that'd be great. Because Drake is just so demonic.
Cameron's just like, no.
Cameron's like, we have a name. We've decided.
I don't understand why you guys are trying to rename it.
Listen, we have a lot of suggestions and we're going to go through them all. Okay. We're going to go through all of the suggestions. We're going to consider all options here before we move forward.
What's the name?
Before you choose the one I chose.
The Drake and Christine show. Is that what Cameron chose?
Yeah.
He did choose that one.
Oh, that's pretty good.
You need to have like a picture of you two like back to back, kind of like, and then like there's like one of those like those wow graphic where it's like
like bam, blast.
Yeah, like that, and then it's like you guys on it, and then the back is a different color. It's like I'm seeing like a kind of a
fuchsia,
or a fuchsia, and then like a yellow, like a bright yellow, like bam, and then they're on there, and they're like this, and then it says the Drake and Christine show. Dude,
with some
go
teal
on Canva. That's done in like 5 minutes.
All right, we'll outsource it to you. You can.
Or there's put it
I'm
the
an idea
Pearson
person.
show, and the angle that you take with it is like you know like
You need a laugh track. Oh, you need a laugh track.
Oh,
yeah, that's that.
and a soundboard, and then people can be like, oh,
Yeah.
and then they can be like, oh,
I'm telling you, you guys can take this to another level.
yo,
that would be
you
funny.
guys.
A laugh track, just so you push a button and people laugh.
Christine,
And
are
like
you
Drake
hearing
has
this?
control over it. And
Yeah.
it never
Wait,
lasts
wait,
15
wait, wait,
Laugh
Drake,
tracks
Drake.
are mind control, guys. Come on.
Exactly.
Okay, that's
what
why we're
suggesting.
suggesting it. Okay,
Speaking is mind control.
Drake and Christine,
Speaking is mind control.
what is your like starting point with the show? Before we get back onto the topic, like what's the starting point?
The starting point of the show. My starting point for this show is one, share like things that people need to know about, but also have a lot of fun with it, and you know, obviously help people to see the direction they need to be moving. That's
Okay.
it.
Christine, would you agree with that?
We'll say it like
Yeah. And as well to share, like, because we always like talk together. So why not just share our conversations with everyone else? And then to direct people into creating better relationships, because Drake and I have an awesome relationship, and sell TT because that's what people need.
Nice. Okay. So now, do you see the
You said the
benefit
quiet
of
part
having a
out
laugh
loud.
track?
That's right. That's exactly that. Damn it, Christine. We need to have another talk after this now.
Okay, new podcast.
New podcast.
That one's
New
over.
idea.
We're not doing that. Different podcast now.
Okay. New idea. So forget all that.
But keep the laugh track idea. That would be so fucking priceless.
Is that why you asked the starting point thing? To see
Yes,
if
that's literally the only reason.
I really think you should do the laugh track, and you should do like sound effects.
Selling.
Like, you know, like.
Now we need like
you
a
know.
studio, Drake.
We'll consider.
No, don't overcomplicate it. Just a little.
No, we're still
Like
gonna
when
do
you
it.
no, you could just get like a thing. You know, like when you said the point about micro penis, it would have been like wah wah. You know,
guys,
That
you
would've
know
been
how
funny.
simple it probably is. I'm sure there's a way that you can just like map it to your keyboard. There's probably a website, but maybe an app, and then you just share your computer audio, and then you just hit the button and it plays it through your computer audio. Probably so simple.
We'll talk about this another time. Usually we're recording like on our
this is-
phones. We probably won't talk about it another time. Usually we're recording on our phones, so it doesn't work out. Anyway,
Okay, back to Drake's thing.
back to what I was going to
Back
mention.
to micro penis.
Back to micro penises. Actually, it
That's
was
not. We don't. I thought we don't call Drake that anymore.
Actually, do you
Laugh
know
track.
what a Drake is? Do you know what a Drake is, Asif?
A Drake is
Isn't it a male duck?
A male duck. Okay, all right. I want you to know why they call me Drake, right? Okay.
They have massive
Are you aware of this?
bills. No, I don't know. Go ahead.
Okay, you just go look up the average size of a male duck's penis. Okay.
This is funny.
That's hilarious because we have a male duck and his name is Megatron and he's too small, so he can't mount the female. And so he'll just like try and mount, but it doesn't work. That's the image I have in my mind.
Okay, but like when you just called me and you asked me, should you put him on those puberty blockers? I told you not to do it.
But Cameron, it's just a pause. We're just getting through the winter. Now it's springtime. He can go out, you know.
Dude, duck
be
penis is
fine.
weird.
You should have gone to a quack doctor.
Oh, laugh track. Okay, Drake, go ahead. Something you found interesting.
Remember long time ago, Cam was talking about this.
So
book that he
real
had
quick,
read.
just to confirm, the reason they call you
Christine,
Drake
can
is
you
because
see my? I don't know if you see my
you
message.
have a corkscrew penis.
It's because I have a corkscrew penis.
Yeah.
That's what I wanted you to see.
Gotcha. Makes sense.
So long ago, Cam was talking on the podcast about some book he was reading about the government. So the government basically creating people to be docile, and that's what they valued, right? Do you remember that book? What was that book called, Cameron?
Sounds like misinformation.
Was it Zone 23? Was it that one?
Yes.
Nice.
See, there
Nice
you go.
trick.
Boom. I knew what it was called the whole time.
Well
I just-
done. Wow.
I was just
Savage.
checking. Yeah.
Wow. I
Anyway,
love
no, but basically, it was like this point of if you don't have your emotions in check, or rather, if you're not socially conforming, then you're ostracized or you're cast out, essentially. And what's being actually promoted here, aside from this, you don't know who you are, and so you become trans agenda. Ostrich sized. Yes, Asif just put in the chat, ostrich sized. I want you to know I have an ostrich sized penis. Anyway, Cam's face.
That's scary.
No way! Where'd that come from, Karen? Oh my god, that's like no, you're muted. Can't hear.
Oh man, that was.
I said I fucked it up by playing it twice.
No,
That was pretty good.
Okay, so, but you guys set me up for that. I like it. But basically, aside from this trans agenda, the other thing that's happening is
Transgender. That's what we should call it.
It's also promoting these puberty blockers, these drugs, to basically not just chemically castrate, as in making people not want to have sex, which is another form of what we've been talking about a lot, that the elite like as far as like population control, right? But also it's another form of making people docile and just going along with whatever they're being told, you know? So I just wanted to bring that up because I saw that was really relevant.
Yeah.
Okay, but I want to tie it back to what I was going to conclude with. Okay,
Well,
so that was just all the context. What were you going to say, Mitch?
What, dude?
Did you see the Ministry of Truth thing?
Yes.
We have to tie that in.
Yes, that'll come later.
Okay, good.
Okay.
So,
Okay,
but
cool.
here was the point I was going with. Okay, so it's kind of going off of what Drake was just talking about. I'm just trying to think if there's any more context anyone needs. So,
Hit the points again. Hit the points.
well, the point was the Lupron. Okay, so this did we talk about this before that we started recording? I think I didn't bring this up yet.
Lupron? What?
So I was talking about the Blair White, the
you just
trans
started
people
talking about it.
podcast.
Yeah.
So they were talking about the puberty blockers and so forth, and they mentioned specifically the major one. It's the one that you get every 3 months. It's like an injection. It's called Lupron.
Yeah.
Okay, and they were like, this is also used in the criminal justice system. Yeah, I said this, right?
Yeah,
I
exactly.
wasn't sure if it was before we started
But
recording.
the
or not.
pedophilia, and if you were to say chemically castrate, because that's what they're saying for the pedophilia, you chemically castrate them with Lupron. If you were to apply that for the transgender point, people would
Was
be
that
like,
when
"What
we
are
were
you talking
recording?
about?"
Yes.
Yes. Yeah, that was like
I don't know
10
why
minutes
my
prior.
memory is like it was before we started recording. Anyways, yes. Okay, so
Cameron's queuing it up for himself.
I'm trying to like, okay, share audio. Fine. Once I've done my point, I'll go and I'll finish making my soundboard. I found a website where you can create soundboards. It's pretty cool. Anyways, okay, so so that's all the content. Okay, but I'm trying to remember if it was from the Candace Owens video or something else. It didn't really matter. But think about this, okay? So remember, okay, you guys understand this scenario where it's like you're a parent, okay? And you've got a kid in school, 7, 8, 9, okay? And Drake, we both tutored a lot. So we know like this scenario where it's like the parents like, yeah, you got a teenager, they're on like some ADHD medication. And they were like, yeah, it was when they were in 2nd or 3rd grade, right? It's always like 7, 8, 9, something like that. The teacher said they blah, blah, blah. They took them to the doctor. They gave them this stuff. So they've been doing it since then. It's always around that time. Okay.
Yeah.
So your child is in school. They're having all these behavioral issues. Okay. And then what happens? The teacher says they might have ADHD. They take them to the doctor. They get on these medications. It's like a pipeline. And what I realized by watching all this stuff and connecting all these dots is that's what's happening.
Fuck.
They're in, it may not only be in school, but let's say they're in school or it's some of the
what's a
context.
better word than pipeline is a funnel.
A funnel, yeah. So it's like a sales funnel.
Yeah.
The kids are depressed or they're showing some kind of signs of social anxiety, depression, whatever. They go to the psychiatrist. They said you might be experiencing gender dysphoria. Mm-hmm. And one of the problems, if it's not correctly treated, is suicide. So they're telling the kids and the parents, if you don't treat this, it's very likely your child will kill themselves. Because see, our society, that's why all the impulsing about trans people not being accepted is happening, because people will buy into the idea that they're so susceptible to suicide. And then it's like it's like fucking ADHD. It's like a new disorder that the doctors are like, oh yeah, you know, you really got to get this new drug over here that treats this just like fucking ADHD, when you know most of the people who have ADHD don't really fucking have any problem. It's just, yeah, you're fucking unfocused because you have low vocabulary and you're bored with the shit that you're being taught because it's fucking useless stuff and you don't, it's just all memorization anyways.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so what is the social interaction? What is so what is the child's purpose? Right. And so think of it from that perspective. It's just like the ADHD epidemic. We're now having, it's like a whole medical, and that's why I sent y'all that children's hospital thing. It's like, dude, the children's hospital is totally down with this.
It's like crazy. It's crazy because like I was one of those kids that they were trying to push through that funnel of like getting ADHD and like Ritalin, you know. And it was interesting the way it happened too. It was just, I had a teacher, she really didn't like me. It's okay, I didn't like her either. And she was just like, oh, your son, I remember like she had sent me to the office for being a disruption in class. I'd gotten a poor grade on some assignment just because I literally didn't turn over the assignment and didn't see that there was a backside to it. But I aced the front side 100%. And then she'd sent me to the office, had my mom called and had the principal talk to my mom. And this was at a private school, by the way. Had the principal talk to my mom about putting me on medication. Why is the principal talking to my mother about medicating me, right? And basically the principal is just like, hey, there's nothing we can do. He's just gonna have to do this. And like, luckily, my mom was like, I think I'm going to pull him out of this school. I don't think this is the right school for him. And then they found out like all the distractions and everything, like why I would stand up in class because I needed glasses and I couldn't see the board and shit like that. So like all this shit that they're just like,
hey, your kid needs drugs. Your kid needs drugs for the rest of the. Oh, he just needs glasses. My bad. Sorry. It's just his eyesight.
Different prescription. Prescription. But
Yes.
Same thing with like okay, your kid they're not, communicating well with the other kids in class, and they're just like, they're a little bit different. They seem to gravitate towards more of the feminine things. I think your kid's experiencing gender dysphoria. They're
like, who the fuck made you a doctor, bitch?
Right?
Like, you know what I'm saying? Like,
we talk about it openly in class, and so it's been several months now that I've been impulsing your child about gender dysphoria, and they just want to be accepted by me and everyone else in the classroom, and so they're going along with it. So I think you should do it.
It's so crazy because it's like, if the whole thing like around COVID time is everybody thinks they're a doctor, and it's like, oh, you don't have the authority to say whether or not these other drugs can support people with COVID and like all this different stuff. But then you have principals saying, oh, we've diagnosed your son, I'm going to prescribe a drug to you indirectly. Like, you need to go see this, et cetera, et cetera. It's like it's such a dirty game, man.
And here was like the really big scam of it all was during that time, it was common practice for, and I don't know if they still do this, they might still do this, but for however many kids are on medication at your school, specifically the ADHD medications, the school would get more money for all those students.
Oh my God.
It was in their interest, financial interest.
That's what I was wondering. I'm like, what's the point? What is it? What is the point about why the principal would do that? But I was trying to think about it, but that makes does anybody listen? Like, I hope everybody listening gets that. It's this, the schools are being financially incentivized, probably through government subsidy of, hey, it's probably framed as, hey, you guys have a more difficult student body, so we're going to give you subsidies in order to spend that money on things to support you can probably spend it on whatever you want. But it's like, hey, in the context of, if you guys have more kids who have ADD and ADHD, proven by prescription or whatever the case may be, therefore, like, we would give you more money. Therefore, the schools are incentivized to do that. That's fascinating.
It's also like when they rolled out, put those two together. When they rolled out Common Core, they basically said like, hey, you don't have to do this. Your school does not have to do this. But for all the
Because they're not
schools that
legally
are
allowed
doing
to say they have to.
it- yeah. But for all the schools that are doing it, we're giving them these grants, these incentives, all
Yeah.
this. Like it's just
That was the race
money.
to the top.
Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
In that Seattle
Drake,
Children's
turn up-
Hospital one.
Turn up your mic a little bit. Oh,
What?
like a lot of it. Yeah.
How about
Great.
what if I move it closer to myself?
That's probably
Sounds-
good. Yeah.
sounds
Not
okay
you,
to me.
Cameron. Not you, Cameron.
How about now?
That's good. Yeah.
Okay, good.
In that Seattle Children's Hospital video, towards the end of it, they're like, this puberty blocker, whatever stuff can be very expensive. So we'll talk to you. There's like a certain group that you can speak to that'll help you through the process of insurance and coverage and co-pays and all this stuff. And I'm like, oh,
Damn.
this is why the universal healthcare insurance thing, you see in the US, that's why they wanted to force everybody that you have to get health insurance, because that system wouldn't work if everybody is not putting money into it. And they want to basically subsidize all of this kind of stuff, basically pay for it through tax. So like, think about it. The money is going right back to the fucking pharmaceutical companies. There, you see, like, it's like all they pay for the politicians do this, and then it goes right back.
Dude, that sales funnel is crazy. Imagine that mapped out. Like you buy one thing, you're like, okay, puberty blockers. Then it's like, wait, one time only. Do you want to also buy this surgery? Oh, and then this, and then this. And it's like, by the end, you're just like,
But I can't pay for it. Don't worry, we have
200K
a
in
financing
debt.
company for that,
It's already like that in Canada. Like
Yeah.
Megan
What
and
do you mean?
Carl have firsthand experience. Like you don't have to pay for that stuff. You can literally just go to like Megan and Carl in the group. We used to work at a children's hospital as pharmacy technicians, and mothers and parents would come in with their, I think Megan said the youngest that she'd seen was an 8-year-old coming in for puberty blockers. And then sometimes these parents would come or call the clinic and be like, hey, we're not going to do this anymore because my child didn't like how they felt on it. So we're just going to stop this. And it's like, no shit. Like, but it's so much easier to just go because you don't have to pay for it there.
Mhm.
And you're legally allowed to like.
I want to play a little bit of that children's hospital. I'm just going to play the audio because I
And
really
real
want you
quick,
guys to hear how they're doing it. Yeah, go ahead.
In the meantime, it's like, think about if you actually paid for it, right? As a parent, it automatically subconsciously commits you to that decision more and more. And you're like, fuck, I spent all this money to make sure my kid's happy. Like, oh, maybe I have to keep going. Like, you don't cut your losses. Some cost.
In that context, parents are always like, you know how much fucking money I spend for you to play fucking baseball? You're going to fucking baseball.
Yeah.
And it's just baseball. Nobody gives a fuck about like little league baseball, right?
Could you imagine? Yeah. Could you imagine spending thousands and thousands and thousands and thousands? How much does it
You
cost?
wanted to be a
Looking it up?
fucking girl. Remember that? You wanted to be a girl. You're gonna be a fucking girl, you little bitch.
Mitch, like when you were looking up the costs, like what were you seeing?
I have no idea how much this stuff costs, but just
Okay.
hearing about all this. But what is bottom surgery, Drake? You said the word bottom.
It's like
surgery.
when you switch genitals.
Yeah,
When you
that's,
said-
okay.
that's the bottom
Switch-
surgery. for the
Somebody
bottoms.
said on the live chat, they said that Starbucks pays for the surgery, the trans surgeries apparently, which makes perfect sense to me.
Dude,
That would
that's
not surprise me.
fucking
But think about it, like when you go to like, Starbucks,
benefits, a job ad, and it's like you have like health coverage, like vacation days, we pay for your trans surgery. Like, I want
No,
to
but
work
they're
at
like-
Starbucks.
like when people order there, they're like, I want a frappa mocha latte, hold the skinny fat with the tall foam and so forth. It's like, I'm a trans pan demisexual latte or whatever, right?
I
It makes
identify as a latte.
Latte. That's funny.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. I want to play some of the audio of that thing real quick, just so I want people to hear the way they're looking at this. This is Seattle Children's Hospital's like official YouTube channel.
Puberty blockers. What are puberty blockers?
First of all, the person talking is definitely trans. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow, listen to that piano too.
Puberty blockers cause your body to stop making puberty hormones. This is like hitting the pause button on puberty. It can prevent some of the changes to your body that do not match your gender identity and can give you time to explore what you feel comfortable with now and in the future. Like other medical treatments, there are benefits and risks. What is puberty? Puberty is the process your body goes through to become capable of making a baby, as well as reaching adult size and adult brain development. This happens at different ages for different people. What are the body changes in people with testicles? Without puberty blockers, these are the changes that happen during puberty: testicle and penis growth, facial hair, increased acne, growth spurts, voice gets deeper.
Do you see how they said without puberty blockers?
Yeah.
It's kind of like if you don't take your heart medicine, you could get heart problems. It's like if without puberty blockers, your body might start growing testicles and growing hair and stuff like that. Like it's a problem.
Just randomly.
What are the body changes in people with ovaries? Breast changes.
People.
Changes in body shape, including fuller hips. Menstrual periods start, usually more than 2 years after breast changes begin. Growing taller at a slower
Listen to
rate.
this part. Okay.
Body over 2 to 5 years. If you start puberty blockers after puberty has been happening for a while, they can prevent any further changes, but they cannot reverse the changes that have already happened. The earlier in puberty that blockers are started, the more changes to the body they can prevent. For example, if started early in puberty, puberty blockers may reduce the need for future surgeries or other treatments. That is, breast removal, or mastectomies, for transgender men, or hair removal for transgender women. Because
Okay. First of all, why, if a woman is whoever identifies as a woman, then why are they assuming, and I'm not trying to be facetious, like why are they assuming that trans women would want their hair removed?
Yeah, that's a good question.
Or that trans men would, what was the one for trans men? Breast removed.
But I think I was looking at it.
Do you see the point? They're saying if you're a trans man, you're not going to want your breasts.
Yeah.
But that goes against the whole point of it.
Yeah. Because like you're supposed to be whatever you want to be.
How do you
As
know
long
a
as it's in
trans
your
man
mind.
doesn't want why would a trans man want breasts or not want breasts? How do you know? Because you define it however you want, right? A man is defined as however they want. Man can have breasts.
I watched a
Right.
video and it was, I don't know, it was a trans person, and it was like, and they were giving how they want to be seen. And they said, woman calls me woman, yes. Man calls me woman, no. Man calls me they, yes. And it was like that was the whole video. Man calls me man.
How do you know if the other person calling you is a man or a woman?
Oh, spicy.
Also, this specific point, and I've seen several people make this point.
Shit, you're smart.
What, like, think about this. What is a woman? They're saying it's whatever you want it to be. And they're saying your sex is your physical body. It's your vagina, your penis, your DNA, all that kind of stuff, right? But that's not your gender. Okay. And so sometimes your body doesn't match with your gender expression. And it's like, what does that even mean?
Well, you could be whatever you want.
But if your gender is not your body, that's your sex,
Mhm.
and your gender is your expression, how can your gender conflict with the sex of your body? They're different things, because what they're doing, what this mythology, what's the word I'm looking for? Ideology. If this ideology
Mythology
is
was
sound, it's self-contradictory, because they're deliberately making it like, see, we have to break the connection between gender and sex. So that way you can think, okay, I could be a different gender than my sex. But then they have to put them in conflict by saying they have to match.
Yeah.
They're the same. Like, so you need to change your sex to be the gender that you are. It's like,
Right.
but if they're just two different things, why do you need to have? And so think about it, to the point where you would cut off your penis or change it into a vagina. Like, that doesn't make sense. Why don't you just, if it was a totally innocent point, if it was a totally like, no, this is really just, we want people to be comfortable with how they feel, then you would just say, then people should be able to have penises and wear dresses.
Yeah.
What does it matter? But they're like, no, I need to change my penis into a vagina so I feel like a woman, even though the gender is just the way I express myself. But you're trying to change the physical expression of your body. It's like, and saying that society doesn't accept me for who I am. I want people to accept me for who I am. And this allows me to express who I am. It's like, you're not accepting yourself.
Right.
No,
For who and
Cameron.
what you are.
No,
Okay, no,
it is
no,
society that is making me.
I
feel
need to totally
like-
change the way my DNA is expressing itself.
Uh-huh.
Because and I need to constantly suppress that. Like, stop it. Bad DNA, bad. No penises. Stop doing that. I don't want a penis. And then you're like, people want it. Any people accept me. This allows me to be who I really am. It's like, and would any of this actually occur if people understood where their thoughts and feelings and emotions came from and knew how to direct them?
Okay. Thomas Sowell has this great
So
quote.
good.
He has this great quote of, I forget the exact quote, but it's basically this. It's basically this. Whoever has the privilege or has the power, that's where the people will go. They'll identify as those who have the privilege, right? Whoever has the most benefits in a society, that's the group that will grow. And the example that was given was basically before affirmative action, it was just like, you get into school based on, what you're doing, whatever, right? And then they were like, hey, actually, Native Americans, that's a privileged class. They'll have better benefits, tax benefits, all that sort of stuff. And what he was saying was when they had measured how many Native Americans between the age of 20 and 30 during this certain year or whatever, they found that there was only like 60,000. But then when they measured this same cohort 20 years later, after affirmative action was passed and after all these benefits were given to Native Americans, that group grew by 30,000. By 30,000. Like, oh, where did all these extra people come from? Right. And maybe they weren't, surveyed properly, whatever. Right. But it's also the same thing that happens with like Black people. If, you're light skinned enough, you could pass for white because that's the privileged class. And then when all the benefits start going to Black people, it's like, oh, no, I'm Black. I'm Black,
Wait. Technical question. Can I identify as a Black person?
No. Okay. So
even if I feel like one?
No.
Why does it work if it's gender, but
you
not
can
race?
identify as a woman if you feel like one, and that's fine. But you're a white cis male right now. And so you get no benefits. None at all.
Yeah.
Sorry.
So we can change gender, but we can't change race.
Only if it involves, because you don't have to give money to the pharmaceutical company in order to change race, right?
Right.
Dude, imagine if they come out with that shit.
Also,
dude, change your pigmentation. Change your
imagine
pigmentation.
If they come out with
read Otherland.
Uh-oh.
They actually do that.
Okay.
Oh shit. I am reading it. I'm just not.
No. Is it Otherland or?
I think you're talking about China.
We've got too many books. We need a self-perfected recommended book list.
No, I'm trying to remember what book it is. Maybe I think it's Quarantine. I think it's Quarantine. It's by Greg Egan. There's a book where it's like people deliberately can darken their skin and so forth.
Wow.
Yeah. Because they want to live in Australia.
Interesting. So imagine that. Imagine how much even more crazy that would be.
But here's the point.
But this is where it's going.
Here's the point that I wanted to make is that right now with the gender dysphoria, it's like you can switch back and forth. Oh, today the privilege is for women. Women just like, I just want to be heard. So I'm a woman today. And then tomorrow it's like, yeah, but men can do this job really well, or we'll get favorable interviews for this. I'm a man today. Like, oh, I'm a man in drag and you are being offensive towards drag men. Oh no, I'm a woman today and you're being offensive towards women. It's just like,
yet science,
fuck your science.
Right?
Also, totally follow the science. Yeah,
we believe in science, right? Okay, and so now
because they believe in it. That's the problem.
Let's for the people who may not fully get this, right? Why is this so important? Well, here's another side note that will tie it all together. The Biden administration just appointed this lady, Nina something, to this new administration. I forget exactly what it's called. It's like the Anti-Disinformation Committee or something. It's part of the Department of Homeland Security.
Yeah.
So it's basically a new police force that's here to combat disinformation. Right at the same time that Elon Musk gets Twitter and he's talking about protecting free speech and all that stuff, like that's
literally the thought police.
It's literally the thought police. It's like if you read 1984, this is the Ministry of Truth. And this is why this all matters, is because everyone right now is focused on not being in reality. They're focused on their mind.
Isn't she like Russian or something?
Something like
I think
that.
she's Ukrainian.
Ukrainian?
I don't know. She's got a Ukrainian
I stand with her.
flag. She's
Oh,
got
yeah.
a Ukrainian flag.
Perfect. I stand with her and I ask no questions.
I stand with her. I believe her.
Mhm. Yeah. Wait, how do we know she's a her? Okay. So
Believe and stand with all Ukrainian women.
So it's like this is the mind manifesting, right? This is the war for the mind, and we're losing touch with physical reality, like us collectively. It's not they, and not the trans they. I mean, like, it's they, it's their fault, it's them. It's like, no, it's like us collectively. We're all allowing this. And so are we going to allow this anti-self-perfection, which is just this degrading into complete insanity and chaos? Or are we able to then say, this is what makes sense, is let's first figure out, how do we get everyone's basic needs met, get everyone a real education, so they know, where do your thoughts come from, where do your emotions come from, why do you feel like you want to be a woman today? Let's look at that first, make sure you can unpack that. Then you might realize, I just realized I wasn't getting enough attention when I was a child, or something like that. And so that's really that's the alternative that I vote for, is let's get a real education everyone first, and then if people want to do that whole thing, then they're at least educated.
But think about it, like, let's look at that real education point, because this is why it has to be one-on-one. It has to be the parents taking that responsibility, because right now people are just complaining that in the schools they're brainwashing the kids with all this transgender stuff, which is true. And that's why I was bringing up the whole thing with the puberty blockers. Like, the whole point is, it's just like brainwashing your kids with trying to memorize shit, and then they're going to sell them ADHD medication because not everybody fits into that and is good at that.
Right, it's all in the mind. It's not like real physical learning connection.
It's just fucking memorization. So people are going to have conflict. So they're going to create a drug because of the discomfort that's caused by not being able to fit into that system. Right. So, imagine being an adolescent in school and all of the fucking discomfort you have of going through puberty. Remember, like, whenever you get like a pimple and you just be like, your whole life would be ruined for a week or whatever.
Like, don't look at this on my face.
Yeah, exactly. Like, stupid shit. Like, you get a bad haircut or you wear the wrong clothes or something like that, so of course people are going to be uncomfortable because you're shoving them into that system. And another thing I was looking at was, there's something called, because that Lupron is also used for something called precocious puberty, which is like when children start going into puberty too early. They're saying before 8. So it's like girls might start developing their breasts sooner or have their period early, or boys might. It tends to happen, I think, in girls more often. I think it was, I can't remember, but it's called precocious puberty. And it's like, why is that actually a problem? And there may be some way to justify there's some issues, that's fine. But these things, they were saying these puberty blockers, part of the problem with them is they decrease bone density.
Mm-hmm.
So you're creating a bunch of fucking weak people, like literally weak
ass people,
weak ass people, right? They literally can't fucking physically do anything, and their hormones are all fucked up. They don't want to have sex. They're not interested in that. So they have no sex drive. So they have no drive for anything. And it's, if you wanted to engineer society in a way where people would just be docile and accept this whole Agenda 2030 thing, your own nothing and be happy, this is how you would do it. You would make a bunch of people where they have no drive, no passion, no nothing, like no. And I'm not saying you need to have a sex drive to have passion for things. It's just, it's not that you need to have a sex drive to have passion. What I'm saying is the sex drive is part of the directive of being alive, of wanting to procreate, of wanting to be alive and expand and grow. So it's like, it's the crushing that, you're crushing all of those points with a person. That's the point of it.
Last week you said something was the opiate of the masses. Do you remember what it was?
Lupron.
Lupron is now the new, that's where I was going with it. Right? It's the new opiate of the masses, because it's like, okay, but seriously though, it's way beyond that.
Oh, you know how one of the reasons why precocious puberty starts to happen? One of them is being exposed to estrogen or testosterone. So imagine all of the birth control that's in the water supply.
Yep. And all this shit with the fake meat and stuff and all this change in our diet and the toxicity in the environment. Yeah. Birth control. That shit doesn't come out of the fucking water, y'all. You realize that?
It's just accumulating more and more and more and more and more and more.
And all the other shit for the Viagra, all the other pharmaceuticals in there, and all the microplastics from the fucking breakdown of.
Now my micro penis has a hard on that I can't satisfy because I have no sex urge.
Yeah.
Mwah, mwah, mwah.
Talk about microaggressions, or like micro urges.
Yeah.
So damn, why is this water so fucked up? That sucks, man. And it can't come out. Like what?
Yeah, because people they piss out the birth control. They flush stuff down the toilet, all this stuff. I mean, there's so many pharmaceuticals.
It's like the half-life of those chemicals is extremely high, and so it just gets recycled. I talked to someone like a year ago. I was at some event and they were doing something with water filtration, and they said that they had a way to get like bacteria to go in and eat some of it, but it's definitely still.
No, that's all we need. Transgender bacteria.
It's like Alex Jones. Remember when he was talking about the gay frogs? That shit was so funny.
Turn the frogs gay.
Yeah, but like everyone listening, do you fucking realize the importance of self-perfected? Like this is the only group that is talking about a real fucking solution. Otherwise, humanity is gonna go. We're gonna fucking destroy ourselves. I'll just be blunt. Like if we don't stand up and speak common sense to people and build community where we can talk about principles and really important shit, and put the current events in the context of how do we direct it? It's like. What's your alternative? Go fucking complain, make Facebook posts. I love these people that make these Facebook posts. They're like posting about Agenda 2030 and like, are you starting to see it yet? Do you get what's happening yet? I'll just start being more blunt with them and like, dude, like what the fuck are you doing about it? You were just posting about God the other day. You think God's gonna come? Like, where's God?
You just pray. You just pray and it'll happen.
Pray and become pray.
Oh, but
pray
okay,
means you become pray.
Can I have a pretend conversation with one of these people, these religious people?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you be one of
Should I be the religious one? I'll identify as religious.
But just play with me. Play along with me, right? Okay. So you believe in God and God has the plan and all that kind of stuff, right? Okay. So let me ask you a question. Why is it important that we teach God in schools and not all this transgender stuff?
Well, because then people will know who their divine creator is, and then they will be able to learn how to be a good person and get to heaven.
Right. But if you just pray to God, can you see it's not going to change anything?
No, every prayer is heard.
Okay. But the thing is, like, do you fully understand God's plan, or can you basically take control of everything in the world?
I could never fully comprehend God's plan because God is infinite and I'm only a human.
Okay, so do you agree there's going to be parts of it that are totally mysterious to you and make no sense? That's what it means to not comprehend it, right? They're going to be like, I wouldn't do that. I mean, it doesn't make sense, but I believe God. I trust God, right?
Yep.
Right. Well, how do you know that God isn't the one that's trying to turn everybody transgender?
God wouldn't do that.
No, but what's the part of God's plan that doesn't make sense to you? What's the part that you're like, oh, that's the part that doesn't make sense?
Well, I just don't quite understand how God created everything and how involved he is in everything. But I just trust in the blood of Jesus. That will get me to heaven.
So, but why not just trust that everything is going to work out and there's no need to complain at all? And in fact, isn't it quite possible that you're going to displease God by complaining about his plan? Because trans people are a part of that. Like everyone becoming cyborgs and getting Neuralinks and being on basic income very well could be part of God's plan.
Well, that sounds more like the Antichrist plan. And
right. But it sounds to me like you're using your human rationality and judgment to make judgments and assessments about the situation. And
God did give me that ability to think. Like that was part of God's gift to me as a human, is I could make free choice.
Hey, that's pretty good. So let's look at that for a moment. Then why don't we think about the points and actually understand that? How do you make change in this world? Is it by praying, Or is it by like the trans people, for example? They have a lot of effect in this world, don't they?
Yeah.
Are they praying and that's how they're having an effect? Or what is it that they're doing?
Well, I don't think they're praying because God would tell them to stop being trans.
Right. But what are the physical things they're doing in this world that is giving them so much influence, like in the schools and all this stuff?
Well, they're just talking about it all the time.
Going into political office,
Mm-hmm.
making money, talking to politicians, doing all that stuff, right?
Mm-hmm.
Could you see potentially that if you did those things, that you would actually have an effect and that would be part of fulfilling God's plan? Because you're assuming that God's plan is that these trans agendas and all this stuff should not be in the schools, right?
Mm-hmm.
But then maybe God is expecting you to do the things in the physical world.
So you're telling me I should run for office and try and get God reinstated back in the schools?
Yes,
Okay.
I think you should do that. But the problem is you don't have the vocabulary of running for office, do you?
I don't
That's
know.
why
I could pray about it.
But that's why you need techno tutor, right? Because the trans people, they know how to do it. Do you need that vocabulary? All right. See, so I'm just tilting over. This is how you get all the religious people. You know, what's funny too, is like, I saw this thing. They said, oh, it was Tim Pool. And he was like, we don't want any of the trans stuff in the schools. We don't want any of the religious stuff in the schools. If a kid asks a question to a teacher about, you know, what about mommies and daddies and stuff, they should say, go talk to your parents. And I'm thinking, what about biology class?
Go talk to your parents.
Like, you can't talk about chromosomes, can't talk about DNA. Was this how, but what about where, like, and he's like, we need to get all that. And I'm thinking that's actually the wrong approach. Like, I don't agree with the point of schools. I understand the purpose of them, but think about it. The problem is there's not enough principle in school. You can't just teach information. And when the problem is Tim Pool doesn't have kids. And even if he did, he wouldn't fucking understand
principal in the school and then a vice principal, but we need several principals in the school.
But here's the problem. Okay. Here's the problem I see. What do the homeschoolers do? Right.
What do the homeschoolers do?
Yeah, like when they're doing biology lesson and the kid's like, but what about mommies and daddies? They're like, you have to go ask your mom. And they're like, but hold on, wait, let me take off my teacher hat. Okay, put on my mom hat. What were you asking, honey? Well, my teacher said that. Your teacher said what? I'm having a parent-teacher conference right now. Then they sit down. They sit on one side of the desk, and they're like, "And now my kid said that you said." But hold on a second. They go around the table, and they're like,
"It's like that Pixar, the animated short with the guy playing chess against himself." What? No, you've definitely seen it before. It's either before Toy Story or before Bug's Life. One of those. And I know you've watched one of these movies.
What are you talking about?
What?
Is this some Disney queer shit?
I've never seen Toys Life.
I'm gonna send you.
God, you know they're gonna. Apparently, Disney is coming out. Disney's coming out with another sequel because, like, how many Toy Stories are there?
Like 4 or 5.
Oh no! Don't tell me. And Andy's like transgender.
No, actually, that's part of it.
No.
Yeah, it's called Sex Toy Story.
That's the new animated.
Well, I'm definitely not watching that.
Yeah.
Wait, what's so funny is I found this documentary yesterday. It's called Programming the Nation. I was like, I was just like chilling. I didn't really take a break all week, so I was like watching it, and it was really, really fascinating. They were talking about how they put subliminal messaging in movies and stuff, and I was like, oh, this is like just really, really fascinating to get a re-up on it in a sense. Like I haven't studied that stuff in a long time, especially seeing what I understand now with programming. And it was really funny. They were talking about the sexual imagery in Disney stuff. And I remember like being way younger, like looking at it with my friends were like, oh, is it true? Like in the Little Mermaid, the priest has a boner and stuff. And they full on have it in there. And then they showed footage from, I think that Disney was testifying in front of Congress or something, or in some court. And it was like where they were grilling him, like, is this or is this not sexual imagery in the Little Mermaid? And they're like, it's his knee. It's the priest's knee. That's what you're seeing. And you can just look at it for yourself. The priest definitely got a boner. Like some dude or some agenda, I don't know, at Disney was like, okay, like this is gonna be hilarious. Let's put a boner with the priest. Because it like grows. It's like not a fucking knee. And it's so funny though, because there was this
is
like
it very
Christian
big or is it
organization.
kind of small?
Kind
It
of
was
small.
it was definitely a micro penis.
So it's like a weenie.
It was like a what?
A
A
wee.
weenie.
Weenie, yeah. I thought you said a wee. I was like,
No, it's okay. We can just keep going. You
Yeah,
don't
yeah.
have to acknowledge it.
So it was so
That's
funny
right.
though, because there was this footage from this Christian organization like in Florida. They're like, Disney's gone too far. Disney, go back to your roots, or like you have no business here. And it was like we just time looped, because isn't that
That was
literally
like, wait, they were like, oh, you haven't seen anything yet. Wait till you get to 2020.
exactly? Wait till
Yeah.
2030, right? Well, good thing
2022.
Drake's gonna buy out Disney, and then we can make it awesome.
Coming soon to a theater near you.
Oh yeah, you
Um,
are in Orlando, so
That's right. Okay, but there was one other point. You'd sent another video, Cam, about like Brett Weinstein and some other guy. I don't remember his name. And they were talking
You
about
sent it like
religion.
yesterday morning. Cam's always sending videos.
He doesn't even know.
Cam's
what
like a movie
video he
critic.
sent. He's like, I don't even know what video you're talking about. But they were talking about religion. And they were talking about,
with Jonathan Pagano or whatever his name is.
I don't know his name. That's why I said I don't know. But yeah, those people. And they were talking specifically about having like one language so that we're all able to communicate, and the value of that. And they were talking about having a set of principles
Oh
that
yeah,
we can all abide by.
yeah.
And that's the way forward.
Because he was
And-
saying that religions are like an evolutionary point that got us to a certain point, but the problem is we need to now say, it's not real, guys. Like, let's just take the actual best principles, right? And it's like that's literally what destiny is.
Yeah.
That's literally it. It's taking the best principles and saying, let's get rid of all the bullshit,
Yeah. And
all the fake pretend stuff.
and having one language that we can all communicate very effectively with is literally what Techno Tutor is.
And okay, on the Candace Owens, was it the Candace Owens? Candace Owens one?
That
She was
the one
making this,
about the
she
20-year-old boy.
she was saying how, this mother failed her child because the mother was asking for advice, right? And she was like, look, I can't really help you, but I can say, let's use your story to prevent other people from going through this. And she was like, you failed your child and you didn't you didn't separate fantasy from reality. So when your child was saying they feel a certain way, you weren't explaining to them that's not real.
Right.
And they said, or you made decisions knowing that the child couldn't distinguish it. And she made this point about how, your child is going to believe that they're Superman, but they don't understand that they can't jump off of a building, right? And so you can't allow them to jump off the building. And that's basically what you did, is like you allowed them to jump off the building. You pushed them off the building, right?
Yeah.
And she was like, but she made this point. She said, children have this point where like part of being a child is having imagination, fantasy, and stuff mixed with reality. And she said they can't distinguish it. And so we, when it's not harmful, as parents, we play into it. That's why we have Christmas and Easter or whatever.
Right.
And I'm thinking, let's look at that for a moment. See, because that's where Candace Owens is not willing to push herself, because your child didn't come up with Christmas on their own.
Right.
They didn't come up with Santa Claus. You pushed that on them. You taught that to them. And then to say, well, they can't distinguish fantasy from reality. It's like, if they come up with, on their own and said, I believe in this guy named Santa, you wouldn't be like, if they said there's a guy named Vitar who lives on Venus and he communicates with me every night and he's going to send me special messages and I'm a special boy, you'd be like, fuck, I need to take my kid to a psychiatrist. He's like, no, Vitar is real. He lives and he talks to me through my teddy bear. And you'd be like, well, but you're pretending, right? They'd be like, no, Vitar is real, mommy. They'd be like, okay, I need to take you to a psychologist. Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not what a parent would do? Like, there's something wrong with my child. Like, I can't get them. And if they're like, mommy,
God was talking.
Mommy, I can't go to school today. Vitar said, if I go to school today, I will die. You'd be like, okay, something's fucked up here. Vitar said, I can't eat those carrots, mommy. He said, Vitar said I'm a bad boy if I eat those carrots. But if they pretend like it's Santa Claus and all this other stuff, that's totally fine. Like, but look, if it acts, so if Candace Owens' kid said that, she'd be like, there's something wrong here, right? So I would assume. So this idea that children automatically, it's like, think of it more like this. Okay, like little babies, right? When they're younger than like 8 weeks or something, they can't really digest their food very well. So they get a lot of gas, they get a lot of like digestive problems. You have to be really patient and care for them and so forth, right? And this is something I learned, and Katie really understood, and she's supported like Caius, for example, because obviously we have our child who's, like less than 3 months old, right? So he went through that period, and now it's kind of become more stable, right? And I'm like, oh, I was really thinking about that. It's like the digestive system has to like come online. Mm-hmm. It's like, if you ever done any extended fasting, I think I've said this before, then if you do an extended fast, you can't just suddenly like go eat a cheeseburger the next day. You'll fuck up your insides, but also you'll undo everything that you were trying to achieve with it, right? And so a new baby, think about it. Where did their digestive system come from?
The mother?
It didn't even exist. Like, it constructed itself. Yeah, it fucking it's like it's being 3D printed inside the baby, and it's like it's not fully functional yet. Okay, now we're putting some food through it. Okay, it's starting to try to adjust and everything, and it's like a brand new, car or something that's like not oiled properly, or it's like you got to get it going a little bit, right, before it's like starting to be, really go smoothly. And so your child's ability to reason is the same way. Not given any input, it doesn't know what the fuck is what. Like, at first with Caius, our youngest child, like, I'm looking at him and he's just like doing this, like, like, I don't know what the fuck. And now when I come in the room, he like looks at me and he kind of like does a little smile or something, like he sees something in there. He wasn't doing that before. So they're starting to distinguish, oh, look, there's objects. That's a separate thing. I've seen that thing before. It's coming back again. Oh, okay, interesting, And so that's how children learn about the distinction between fantasy and reality. Think about it. So how can you complain that people are taking advantage of children's innocence and teaching them all this bullshit, but then you're teaching them about Santa Claus, you're teaching them about God and all this stuff? Imagine you're having a conversation and this person seems totally rational. And then they bring up, yes, well, of course, our Savior, Jesus Christ. And you're like, excuse me? You're what? You might as well have just whipped out your dick and be like, isn't my vagina beautiful? I'd be like, what? What Savior? Look, what fucking Savior? What plan? Like, people talk about how retarded those Q people were because they were like, trust the plan and all this shit. And it was like, oh, it all just led to people like fucking hoping and not doing anything. It's like, what do you fucking think religion was and is?
Obviously, you don't trust the plan, Cameron.
But like the Brett Weinstein guy is pretty interesting because he's one of those people who you'd consider kind of more of like a liberal leftist type person who is like, he's not anti-religion, but he's like, the whole Christianity thing, it doesn't make sense. It's not real. It's like, it's not real, but he's not like anti it. He's just like, we understand why it's there, but now we have to evolve past it, versus like someone like Richard Dawkins, who's like very anti-religion, right? But he's got his own fucking religion called science, right?
Also, is Richard Dawkins trans? Maybe not. Maybe I'm thinking someone else.
He's not trans.
Okay.
He's a transhumanist, probably.
Yeah.
Which is the ultimate point, isn't it? Like, think about this. Okay, so you got all these weak ass people. They're fucking totally confused. They're totally depressed. Like, if you want people to say, I'm going to own nothing and I've never been happier, life's never been better, what do you first need to get them to do?
Own nothing, not even own their body.
But also like have a totally shitty life where they're depressed all the time. Yep. Totally. So imagine if everybody's walking around going, I have no sex drive. I have a micro penis. I can't ever have even a vagina now. I did all this because I wanted to be a woman and I can't even have a vagina, even though it has to be made from my colon tissue. Right. Man, fuck. My life sucks. I just want to take drugs and play video games and be in the metaverse. Mm-hmm. Because think about it, you're so confused about everything and nothing is real. And then it's like, okay, I'm just going to have my virtual. Oh, that was the thing. Imagine you're this far into the video game and you're like, oh, damn, I want to go back and change this about my character. You know, when you do the character creation mode in the video games, that's what's going on. It's like, okay, when you start to get to puberty, that's your character creation mode. Slow it down. You need to pause the game and really consider all your options because, you know, are you sure you're going to want to be a rogue later? You might want to be a what's that one called? A paladin.
Magician.
Yeah, or whatever. You really need to consider this, you know? And then you have all these people who like are 50 years old, especially these men. And I've seen a lot of them where they're 50 years old, they become a woman and then they end up killing themselves. And I actually know somebody personally where that happened. Not like I knew that person. I know the person that was their parent actually.
Wow.
Right.
Wow. There was this interview with Grimes. You know that one.
Is it the one with
Crazy.
Lex Friedman?
Yeah, I just watched the very beginning.
Yeah.
I just watched the very beginning. So I was like, I've never actually seen her talk. And they clipped out one part of the interview. And she's like, we're going beyond being Homo sapien. We're going into becoming Homo techno is the word she had. And I was like, oh, perfect. Techno tutor can help tutor her to have common sense because she's got a lot of.
No, hold on. Homo techno tutor, no homo. That's what we
put that one in my techno tutor.
Yes.
So it just makes
put that
sense.
in your techno tutor and smoke it.
Because the result, the logical conclusion of everything that's happening is instead of changing your internal, instead of changing your mind, your programming, let's change the external. Let's change our body. Let's change the society. And there's always going to be limits to that because we live in a physical reality, right? And we have DNA, and that kind of it predetermines our form. And the only way beyond that is going to be the metaverse, right? And so unless each individual is developing themselves in a way that their character becomes so strong that you can stand on your character and your principles. Are you guys watching the video or something?
I'm trying not to pay attention to the chat because they're joking around with playing on your name while you're talking.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah.
I know. I'm gonna turn the chat off, guys.
Okay,
The allspice was pretty funny. Okay, you got me with that. Go ahead, Asif.
And the point is, you have to develop yourself as an individual because the group is here to support you in your blind spots so that you can understand kind of the path that you have to walk. But at the end of the day, you have to walk it as an individual. We're doing this collectively, but at the end of the day, it's every individual for themselves. You have to walk it for yourself. And the point of saying that is really understanding the context of what is your responsibility in all of this? Because when you look at it and you hear the extent of the problem, it sounds however it sounds to you, right? And you have to look at the negativity that comes along with it. But the interesting thing about technology is that when things are created, you can refine the purpose for them. So for example, you can have a smartphone, and depending on the quote unquote, the people behind it or the people who are using it, you can use it as a tool, like even on an individual level, you can use it as a tool for complete entertainment, or you could use it as a tool to be very productive, right? And it's going to be the same thing for every system that's created in order to impose an agenda that's not best. We can use those systems. We can use the technology that comes from it. We can use the ideas that come from it in order to be of great support. And that's a bigger topic, because sometimes we throw the baby out with the bathwater when it comes to, there is no value in a microchip, for example. This could be really challenging, but you won't be able to see that until you learn that you can trust yourself based off programming yourself effectively. And then you realize, oh, if everyone programs themselves effectively, then I can trust other people. And we have a system that's filtering for that, not filtering, but systematically supporting people to walk that process. Because one of the things that came up at our clubhouse yesterday was oh, it comes down to the parents. It comes down to the parents who are going to be responsible for how that child turns out. Why don't we have a system of education for parents? And I'm not saying they go to school. I'm saying a system of educating parents. Well, that's what we're here to do. But Mitch walking his process, Ashley walking his process, Cameron walking his, Drake walking his process, that's not going to support you as an individual to actually make your life the way you want it to be, and shaping it around the principles and what would be best for yourself, for you and your partner, then for you and your children, and then eventually expanding that to the people that you support and the community that you create. And affect over time, we create structures throughout the states, throughout different countries, where we can then flip on the switch of doing the things necessary in the system to actually start influencing it. But it only happens when we have enough people who really get it. So if you're one of those people, you gotta make that clear to yourself based off what you're doing on a day-to-day basis. Right? Anything to add to that, guys, before we wrap up?
No, it's clear. It's one plus one.
Yeah.
Like, comment, subscribe, share this.
Yeah. The Friday self-perfected calls, they're gonna get spicier. They're gonna get a lot spicier.
All spicier.
We're gonna go back to the roots of self-perfected, which is a little more in line with kind of the stuff we talk about on this podcast.
Yeah.
And it's going to become like it was. The reason why we were able to build it so quickly in the beginning is because we have a message that nobody else actually has. And that it means that you as an individual can take full responsibility for your life. And here's how to do it. Right. So make sure you're on that Friday night call. That's at 6 p.m. Eastern time, 5 p.m. Central Standard Time. And it goes for about an hour. Then afterwards, we have the Techno Tutor support call. But other than that, share this with somebody. Share this with somebody who's like kind of thinking like this, and then but they don't really have any support. If you think this would stimulate them and tickle them in all the right places, share it with them because they'll benefit from it. They'll thank you for it later. Other than that, see you guys later.
See ya.